Hi, everybody. Very happy to see all here today after lunch. Hope get you a bit excitement, had a coffee. I will talk today about our approach to contextualization in a mobile world. And it might be no surprise to you that from our perspective, this is all about you, me, us, the people. Let's take a little recap. As we all know, technology is changing really fast, while at the same time, behavior is only slowly adapting. And our inherent motivation as human beings doesn't change at all. So let's look at technology. In the past, people gathered around the TV. It was, a broadcast. It was one way. It was it was a program there, and so you knew what you would get. People would gather, and the nice thing is that they would actually talk about it and share in front of the TV screen. Today, we're in a very different world with ubiquitous information. Who haven't seen a picture like this, sitting on the couch, you have a TV in front of you, maybe your iPad or your laptop on your screen, on your lap, or a phone. So information and access to information is ubiquitous, and we're there. Everything personalized, connected, and every time. If you look at the mobile phone, people actually spend time on the mobile phone, 54%. They use it even in bed. Read 39% actually use it in the bathroom as well. So we're always on, it is connected. And who doesn't believe it's time with a mobile phone? I've been saying this 10 years ago. I said, the mobile internet is there. It's now. Have a look at this. What Luca Bruno actually saw in 2005 at the inauguration of Pope Benedict. 8 years later. Michael Son, this is how he saw this year's inauguration of Pope Franciscus. So there's 2.4 billion online devices and 5 billion mobile phones already out there. And there's 1 billion smartphones, which means they're like little supercomputers. I think a smartphone today is 100,000 times the speed and processing power than the computer that sent a man to the moon in 1969. We're lucky we have 1 billion people on Facebook and nearly 700 million mobile active users, 680 million. And they spend a lot of time consumer contact. So we see technology is changing really rapidly. So what does it mean for our behavior? In which context are we actually starting to consume content in this mobile world? The London Olympics last year, in the past, you had maybe the BBC or big broadcasters telling us what they were seeing. Today, we see the content from real people. In this case, the athletes with their own eyes, much more authentic and in real time. But it's not only celebrities that can share their view and their content with us today. More importantly, it's our friends. Everyone now has a voice and can share. And this makes the content for us much more relevant because it comes from the real people. It comes from our friends. So we've seen technology is changing rapidly. And behavior is slowly adapting. We're trying to catch up with the technology. But our inherent motivations as human beings, they actually stay the same. People want to be connected. We want to be part of a group, something, the feeling of belonging to something. At the same time, it's all about individuality. We want to be different. We want to be unique. I think all of us in this room, have this feeling. And we want to communicate. We want to make friends, interact, listen, share. So these are all basic human motivations, and they haven't changed, for millions of years now. What does it mean for the web? We're seeing the webs being rebuilt around people. Because our behavior is changing quite slowly, we tend to use new technology with the behavior that we used before. Think about television. The first television broadcasts were basically used like radio, broadcasting, reading basically things that I would used to read on radio. Same thing with the web. When the web came about 20 years, so it's still fairly young, we used this just like we knew before, like print. Uploaded articles on the web and then made them searchable and archivable and kind of build destinations to click there. But our basic human nature hasn't changed, that it's really about people. So what we're seeing is the web is changing and now also adapting to that. So the next version of the web is a web where we take our friends along on a journey. When you go to an app, when you go to a web page or so, it's, you have your friends, you have your interest and your friend's interest that you actually take along as, it's not as a filter, but like a matchmaking mechanism for the relevant content, for the things that you really care about. Our answer to that in the past and still, has been newsfeed. Because newsfeed is, on Facebook where people spend the most time and they have their friends actually to tell them, what's relevant, what they need to know about. So this is where they consume content with your friends and your closest circle of friends actually being the ones that tell you what you need to know. Our newest answer is not a mobile phone, but anyone wants to see it later on, it's home. It's in, if you want a layer on top, the Android system that changes the way also we use the phone. Today all the phones are built around apps. It's great. I also have a lot of apps. But we think, what's most important to you, what do you want to know about on a daily basis? It's, you want to hear from your friends, one of your people that really matter. And so what we've done with home is, we put a personal device and centered it around the people. So what you see here, or back there, is you have your cover feed. So it's the same as you've seen on the news feed, similar, where you have updates from the things that you like, the things that you care about, and your friends, and you can easily interact with the things, comment, like, share, the usual stuff that you're used to. You can also launch into other apps. But most importantly, and some of you might have seen this on your Facebook app, is the messaging. What do we do with the phone as well? We communicate. We want to communicate. We want to talk to our friends about the things that matter. And who hasn't seen that moment when you're trying to type an email and suddenly the phone vibrates and you got a new message? What do you do? And you want to know who it's from, then you leave the email or you leave what you've been reading and you go into the inbox, see the message, and it's like, could have waited. So it's very disruptive. So what have we done is we've created those chat heads that sit on top of all the applications that you can just decide, you see your face and say, well, that's relevant, maybe I just want to have a look at it. You tap on it and you still stay on the same surface, on the same application of things that you've been doing before, and then can decide whether you want to answer now or not. Or just take the hat and drag it off and say, it's not important now, I'll look at it later. So this is home. If friends become your context, basically the relevant filter of the content that matters, what does it mean for businesses? We see three big shifts: from search to discovery, from disruption to connection, and heavyweight to lightweight. Search. I think from the beginning of human times to 2003, we produced 5 billion gigabytes of data. Next year, we'll produce this every 10 minutes. That means there's so much information out there, we don't even know what to search for anymore. And it's like also me, search is great, but am I not constantly searching for something? Because I don't even know yet what I want to search for. So what we're seeing is, you're starting to discover things. And what it also leads to is that it's not about destinations anymore. When the internet was built, big corporates, they built huge websites for a lot of money, and then they pay to send you to the site, fill out lots of data to sign you up, and they told you, yes, and we're so exciting that you have to come back here every single day because this is our website. And who does it anymore? We see the same thing on Facebook. Corporates build their Facebook pages. It's great. Some of them have, maybe even more people, visitors, and followers than their own website. But also there, it's not a destination. People don't go to that page. The page actually becomes a source for posts, for content, and then the users, they actually consume it in their newsfeed. The second shift we're seeing is from disruption to connection. What brands always used to do is they yell at you, say, "We are great." Businesses, they kind of disrupt and say, "Look at me, buy me, do whatever." But this is not, in the age where consumers actually have the choice. They have the choice. They can switch channels. They can just, go and consume something else if they want to. So it's not that anymore that you have to go out there and yell. It's about, think about it as a dinner party. I'm not sure, a lot of you maybe have client meetings or you go and meet, friends for dinner. Think about, do you want to be that guy that actually goes in there and yells at everyone and tells them, how great they are, even if you do not know them? No, it's much more in conversation. You sit down, you listen, and you only say something, you actually have something relevant to share, something that the others find relevant. And this is how we think about businesses as well, that you actually have to start, listening and actually becoming part of that daily conversation, but not through yelling and not through, big time heavy engagement, but like you would normally do. You listen and you share relevant stuff. The third shift we're seeing is from heavyweight to lightweight. So that also means it's not that big message where people can actually tune out once a year. It's actually building that kind of relationship, and it's like in real life. Yeah, it's not just like, "Hi, we've just met. I'm Martin. Let's become friends and go on holidays together." It doesn't work. So you start building a relationship, and a relationship you do over small interactions over time. You go, you meet, maybe you like yourself, you go meet for coffee, then you meet again, go shopping together, meet some friends, interact, share things that really matter, and eventually, you might go for dinner or actually go out on holidays together. But it takes time, and so it's less heavyweight, it's like small, lightweight interactions that also business need to do to interact with consumers. And always ask yourself, why is this relevant? Why should anyone care? Is there anything that I'm actually saying that has a purpose that anyone should care, maybe interact with, share, react, reply, and do something? Just one example in looking at the context of what it takes also for business to have the relevant message in the right context. You see here with Oreo. Some of you might remember the Super Bowl in the US had a big blackout. And I think everyone just remembers about the big blackout and not the Super Bowl anymore. What Oreo does, they tweeted and posted this post. You can still dunk in the dark. And it was not only shared about basketball enthusiasts. But it was very timely. It was at the right time in the right context. And you reached the right people. And they got thousands of shares. Why could they do that? Because the organization was actually set up to do this. They were not thinking in silos, where the brand guy was saying, well, this is what my brand strategy is, and maybe in 6 months' time, this is what we're going to launch. They could react instantly and make sure that they provide the right content at the right time, so in the right context. In our example for great context is, Nike Running. There's a colleague of mine. So you see location, becomes a more important part in life as well. And she's off running. And you can see where she's running, you can actually cheer her on and say, come on, you'll make it. You can also share some music here with Spotify and say, look, what is it? Harder, better, faster, stronger. This is a song that will get you to the finish line. So, create stories and relevant content that are worth being discovered. Build authentic connections with people and use very lightweight interaction over time to build relationships. So what I told you about, it's all about mobile, of course. And it's all about the people. Thank you.
thank you. We have time for a few questions. Again, anybody in the audience wants to ask a question, wave your hand. Let me start here. Of course, Facebook, you mentioned 680 million active mobile Facebook users out there. How many are now moving to home? And you're releasing it slowly, right?
Yes, I mean, home is available at the moment only at certain numbers of devices because of the capabilities on Android there. So it's the HTC device, HTC One, One X, and the Samsung Galaxy 3S, and some deviations of that. So we just...
How many people have moved to home now?
I think 500,000 downloaded it within the first couple of days or so.
So you have 500,000 of people using it. Are they now using it differently? Because I have a feeling, if you describe it, that, well, it's not like we use Facebook differently, especially through home, but home can gather a lot more information about us than it did before. It's more than just a design issue for easy access.
I mean, home is not collecting, any more information than, Facebook, the normal Facebook application would actually collect. So, but it's more about actually, using the technical capabilities that we have with those Android devices at the moment to just make it much more people-centric. So it's, you don't have to actually go into a different app and scroll around. You can just have it laid there, for example, and you see news from your friends or news, from news sources that you care about, and they can just by a tab basically simply interact, share it, like it, go deeper if you want, but it's much less, if you want, intrusive on that side and much easier to use.
Facebook in the past has some attempts that had to be pulled back to personalize the advertising and make the commercial world around the personal interaction of people more interesting to Facebook especially. What will happen now with home? Is there a specific commercial interesting new development there?
I mean, there's, we have commercials, of course, on our newsfeed. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Our advertising model, our business model is advertising, but it's not that we have to make it less personal. I mean, if you look at what I've just said, it's actually making much more relevant, right? Relevant and producing the right content for the right people, and thus making it more meaningful to you. For example, do I want to, read right now? I have some, young daughters. Yes, I might actually care about Pampers at the moment. Normally, I wouldn't. Who knows that? It is actually about knowing what is that right person with the right identity. I'm not a 60-year-old lady, sitting in, in Munich.
You know a lot of things actually, about your audience.
Yeah. But that makes it actually relevant for our advertisers as well, to make sure you reach actually the right guys that you want to use.
But that's simply matching advertisers with audience, and you have a lot of data about your audience, so you can make really particular matches. But I was wondering, because there's also been talk like, okay, what about if you have to pay to contact somebody on Facebook who is very important or very popular or could charge for it? I mean, is there ways to monetize the actual relationships between people?
I mean, there's a small test going on at the moment where you have, you can contact anyone on Facebook, even though if you're not friends, and it usually ends up in a subfolder. And there's a way now, small test going on to see whether that's something very limited to, I think, a message a week or so, to get to that personal celebrity inbox to make sure, or if it's a business use case. But you were asking actually about home. So home for us, yes, it is much more personal because it puts on the device, it puts people first and not technology first. And this is what it's about. And so eventually, of course, we're looking at home as well to introduce certain ads into the cover feeds, just as we have ads in the newsfeed.
Looking out there, because is there any difference? You're director of Northern Europe. Can you point at any difference in the way people use mobile Facebook between the regions? I mean, there are other countries where people are less interested and countries where they're more interested, where the take-up is much higher.
I mean, what we see is actually, there's even much more interaction on the mobile. Yes? I think in the US, what you see is 1 out of 5 minutes on the internet is actually spent on Facebook. On mobile, it's 1 out of 4 minutes, nearly. So there's, people actually spend more time on it because it's, much more personal device. It's, time to kill. You look at what your friends are up to or what's relevant going on. So we see a lot of more interaction. We also see more interaction with the higher the device, for example. So in certain countries, we ask about regional difference. In Asia, you have a much higher mobile-only penetration, for example, where customers don't have a laptop or a PC to go the internet, and they would go onto mobile. In Africa, you have many what some of us would call legacy phones, so not smartphones yet. And of course, there it's a different way to interact. But the most important thing is, it's because it's a very personal device, people interact more. And this is what we, what we are about, to just, making that experience much more personal, less techy. We've seen technology is changing amazingly. Our behavior, slow, but it's, it's about the people and what drives them.
Monique, we have a question here from Pedro.
Hello, Martin.
Hi.
Somewhere along your presentation, you mentioned that friends become your filter, which is both a good thing, but also a very risky thing. If friends become my filter to the world, what does that actually mean towards idea generation and the polarization of thinking?
It's a very good question. I think, if I say a filter, it's, as I said, it's more a matchmaking mechanism, to provide relevant content. What we're actually saying is that, because Facebook connects people, there's actually much more sharing going on. So it's not like what you're saying is that, you might actually see a wall between them and there's less idea generation or exchange going on. It's actually the contrary. So this is what we want. We want people to connect. We want people actually to use Facebook to share ideas, to share content, and do that.
Ole, there's one right here as well. Lady in the front with the white jacket.
Yeah, hi. My question is if you have also any plans to enable voice over IP telephone between contacts. I mean, I think that must be on your roadmap. And I think the second thing, the second question is, what does operators think about that? Because you are also, conflicting a bit of their business model as well.
Yeah. So on the voice over IP side, yes. So we have enabled this already, partly. Some might see it even in Germany already, where you can make VoIP calls, free calls from, your Facebook Messenger. And with the telcos, we work very closely with the telcos. And just my personal opinion, what we see is that we have great partnership in actually expanding this with telco operators, because for them it has more become about providing data, providing rich data services and a data pipe. I shouldn't call them a pipe, but yes, to the people, and anything that enables this and makes it more interesting, they're actually interested in. So we have a very close partnership with the telcos.
Last question over there, yes.
Okay, hi Martin.
Hi.
So I'm Jeremy from France. You've said that we are going from search to discovery, so I've tried the new Facebook search and I discovered terrible photos of me I had forgotten, but what's next after this? Why going to search if it's more about discovery, and where is this search going afterwards?
Our search is very different than web search. So we're not going into web search and again making the web better searchable, and so it's just providing a way actually to search your connections and your friends on Facebook, because that's more relevant. Give an example on traveling, for example. In the past, it was all about reading some nice magazines, looking at some nice pictures, and then if you got there, maybe it was lucky. And then TripAdvisor came and was amazing, because you could read reviews and see what's actually like, get some real pictures from real people to see what's there. And from our side, so what you can search on our side is, of course, what do your friends think? Whether they've been there, what they can recommend. And you ask what's next. I think this is what we're going to focus on continuing. And home is one step in that direction. Just making it more personal and making it much more engaging for you, and making sure you actually have much more relevant in the stuff that you consume.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Martin Ott.
Thank you.